There is a moment in every life when you decide to rise, to stand taller than your fear, to speak louder than your doubt, to chase the vision that sets your soul on fire. This is that moment. And here, we walk it together with stories that awaken, voices that inspire, and truths that set you free. This is Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where hope has a voice, and that voice is yours. And welcome to the show, everybody. We've got a tremendous story for you today, and we're going to be talking about that in just a second. But I have to introduce my co-host, who's going to be around for a little while today, and that is Rochelle. Rochelle, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm very thankful to be in Colorado with my family and spend this evening with them, and also to be on the show with you, Michael, before I have to leave. So let's have some fun.
But first, we have to talk about his service dog.
Yes, we do.
Oh, yeah. It's always the dog first. I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And dogs tend to put us in our place, don't they?
Yeah. Well, I say he's the only creature that likes attention more than me. And so he always helps me work on my attention issues because, whenever we visit the hospital, to do some therapy dog work, I'm just the guy with the leash. Like nobody ever remembers me, and I'm always in the back, like with my arms crossed, like while everybody's petting him, like getting all jealous. But yeah, so yeah, his name is Lingo, and I met him when I was in a very challenging time with my cancer recovery after I went through brain cancer, and we bonded immediately. He was the first good thing to happen to me in a really long time, and he at that time I just wanted to be alone, and I was depressed, and I didn't want to. I was hiding from the world. And he kind of got me out into that. And I knew in order to keep him, I had to get better. And so I soon became his handler, as he was a therapy dog at the local military base. So I became his handler. And then eventually when I was able to adopt him, I promised that I would continue his therapy dog work in the same way to help others in the same way that he helped me. And he's continued to change my life with the work that we do now in Cleveland at Rainbow Babies and in the Simon Cancer Center at University Hospitals.
And Michael is a speaker, and he's had what you would call a major dose of life over time. And he was a ball player of note, Rochelle, and he was actually drafted in the 15th round of the major league draft. And so he left school to pursue his dream of becoming a major league ball player. And then in season 2, something happened, Michael. What happened to you?
Yeah. I was in one of my last games in spring training, and I threw a pitch and I felt my elbow pop. And it was one of those things that you learn. I learned my first year there is that you don't want to tell the organization your arm's bothering you because there's a lot of other players there, and you get buried down below the depth charts because even if it's something minor. So the only time that you want to tell them that your arm's bothering you is if it's something really serious. And so I tried to push through it, but it ended up being really serious, and I had to stay down there in spring training, and ultimately I had to get surgery that was unsuccessful, and it ended up being career ending.
How long did it take you to recover from the surgery? Because I've had elbow surgery, and it takes a while.
Yeah, it took me a few months. It probably took me longer than I should have because I wasn't necessarily doing the things. I was in a really depressed mindset. I had some issues with my family. My dad had a heart attack in California, and my family was with him, and rightfully so. I didn't want to tell them what was going on with me because I didn't want to put more on their plate, and at the same time, my dad didn't want to tell me what was going on with him because he didn't want to put more on my plate, because I realized at that time it was a family dream, not just my dream, because they sacrificed all their weekends with travel all over the country, and for years they invested so much into my baseball. And so I was in this place where I couldn't really tell anyone, talk, and I turned to solutions that I always did at those times, which was alcohol, going out and womanizing or abusing whatever medications that I had, instead of really focusing on my rehabilitation. So I think that definitely delayed the process.
Well, and to be fair, you were a early 20-something young man who this is probably the most devastating and the first time you've had a major injury involved in your baseball career, isn't it?
No, I had major knee surgery my freshman year in college. And, honestly, it was never, I never thought that it was going to be a career ending thing at the time. What I was just trying to do was, and that's the thing I don't, and that's why I call it the disease of me, because I don't think about anything really other than my own immediate needs right now. And so I was just thinking about feeling better now. And the only thing that I could feel better now is I wasn't getting that attention and validation on the field. So I needed to seek it elsewhere off of it. And so that's what I was doing. I wasn't really at that point where I said, hey, this is going to be, no, I thought it was a common injury at first. Bone spurs in the elbow is a common injury, but it ended up being something different. And I think my lack of, I'm not trying to be too hard on myself. I accept it. I don't regret. I don't regret any of it. I don't like look back on it like poor me at all. I learned from it, but I take a lot of responsibility in what I did in my recovery.
Well, but I want to point something out to you because, and first of all, Rochelle, I know you're going to have to leave a little early, so I want you to ask a question or two before we get too far into it, and because I know you're curious about some things.
Yes. Well, did you have a question first?
Well, I just wanted to tell him the story that I've told many times here. I played baseball with a left-handed pitcher, and he was in 1974. He threw 92, 93 miles an hour. I was a catcher, scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
But what he did was he was the first draft choice of the San Diego Padres, who had the first draft choice in the entire draft.
Wow.
So he was number one of number one.
Yeah.
And everybody assumed he was going to have a long major league career, and he got a big signing bonus in those days. It wasn't that big today and stuff. Well, he also was injured, and he never played in the major leagues, and his career in the minor leagues were shortened. So your story, while disappointing, is a lot that happened to a lot of guys. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it's more common actually than the other one. It's more common than the guy making it and playing, right? So
exactly,
it happens way more. Like I've done a lot of back to college. I did my senior thesis on athletic identity. The average that the average career is 3 to 5 years of the small percentage that make it to go play pro. It's incredibly small. But I think too, though, when you get to that level and physicality becomes an even playing field, you have to have that sense of denial inside you that you're going to be the one that makes it. That has to be your mindset that separates you. And so I think that denial permeates in you, and that denial permeated me after I was hurt. And it led me down a road of self-destruction because I was never willing to accept that my dream was over. I was never willing to just move on. And I think athletic identity, when you make it your identity, it affects players differently. It affects players more, especially when they're a little younger, like I was, that invested so much into being an athlete.
Exactly. Rochelle?
Yeah, I have to ask you, Michael, was there a moment that you remember where you realized, like, if I want to be anything more than I am or have any sort of life with purpose, I need to change what I'm doing right now? Or was that kind of like a long, drawn-out process of becoming aware of things?
Yeah, I think you're talking about turning points, right? Like, yeah, and I think there's two different types, right? There's ones where that, like you're saying right now, plants a seed and it slowly goes through, and then there's ones that invoke immediate change, right?
Yeah.
And I think I've had both of those, and I talk about it. There's one moment I had where I just had this idea in my head when I was driving that I just hit me hard, and I talk about it all the time. It hit me harder than anything I've ever felt, where I just realized, how selfish I was, like what a a-hole, what a jerk that I am. And I just, for the first time, I saw in real time the damage that I was doing to my family. And that really helped me change a lot. And Lingo was one of those moments too. And I think too, the first time that about a year into my sobriety recovery, I got a chance to speak in front of a large group of patients. And that kind of had that moment that changed me, where I realized that I found a new purpose. Like that I missed so much pitching in front of people and getting that attention and stuff. But then I realized there was a way for me to kind of fulfill that desire But at the same time, I'm speaking about the worst times of my life. I'm not exactly like saying, hey, how great I am. I'm talking about, I'm being vulnerable. I'm talking about the hardest things that I went through, but just to see the difference that I make in people afterwards. I think that moment really just inspired me to, hey, if I want to do this, if I've been given this chance to do this, then this is how I have to act and move going forward.
Yeah.
And so let's set the stage here. You grew up playing baseball. Your family went around in the van, and they followed you everywhere you went, and they loved you playing baseball, and everybody was convinced that you were going to be a big deal and be in the major leagues. And then you had arm problems, and you weren't able to do that anymore. And then you were kind of rudderless for a little bit, and with some drugs and alcohol and that kind of stuff. And then at one point in time, you went to the doctor and you got a diagnosis. Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, now I know why it's called Positive Talk Radio, because he put a real positive spin on that whole thing, right? It's a little worse than that, but yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's a good story. Yeah. No. So I
I do try every day. I try.
Making mistakes in there, but that's okay. I'll take that one. But yeah, no. So yeah, I tried. I was still in this period of. I went through treatment a few times. I'm still in, or one time. I'm in this. Unwilling to accept baseball, but I kind of know it's over. And I was after I got out of treatment in Arizona, I was too embarrassed to go back home and face my prominent friends, that are doing all these great things, but I'm, just getting out of rehab. So I'm like, I didn't really want to face them. So I decided to stay in Arizona and try to start over. And I got a job as a personal trainer and started to work in that industry. And then, I wasn't doing the things that were suggested of me though out of the treatment. And I finally was living back to my old life the way that I was. And I got in a little bit of legal trouble where I had to go, was required to go to AA meetings and do drug tests again. And so I started to turn my life around a little bit. And then as that happened, I started to experience these just debilitating headaches out of nowhere. Headaches that were so bad that I really couldn't ignore. And I had a girlfriend at the time who thought that I was back on drugs, which is rightfully so, because I was just nodding off or I couldn't wake up in the mornings. And we got into a little argument one day, and she dropped me off at the emergency room. And that's when I found out that I had a medulloblastoma brain tumor, a malignant brain tumor, slightly smaller than a tennis ball or lacrosse ball size, and my cerebellum, the part of your brain that controls voluntary movement, amongst other things.
Wow. And well, basically a baseball size tumor in your head. Was that a long process, or was it like, see, my brother had a brain tumor before he passed away, and he just one day just passed out.
Yeah. And
that's how he figured out that he had a brain tumor. Is that kind of been because you were getting headaches and stuff?
Yeah. So it's from what I understand, from what I was told, is that could either be happening my entire life, or it had to be happening really fast, rapidly. Right. It's not something that either one. And so it was a very specific type of headache that I had. It's hard to explain, but it was I've only had them twice. That before I had that tumor, and then once in college I had them there, but they were a little more mild. And so at the time though, I was at college, paid for me to Berkeley paid for me to go get brain scans done, and I had nothing in my head. So this was at 21 years old. I had nothing in my head, and so I knew that it wasn't growing my whole life, so it had to be happening rapidly, right? And so. So what had I done in the meantime for that to happen? In my desperation to fix my arm, I had bought human growth hormone and other anabolic steroids, without any medical supervision, and I used them. And then when I got hurt again, I abruptly stopped using them. So I'm almost 100% sure that that's what it gave me, because I didn't realize the type of tumor that I had was extremely rare in adults. It's very common in children, and I didn't know that I had a family history and my mom's side of the family that had these type of tumors. So I didn't know the risk that I was putting myself into. And so that must have been the cause of it. I mean, I'm sure doing heroin and other things didn't help, but I think that's what like, yeah, but there's other risky behavior that didn't help and stuff. But I really believe that's what gave it to me, which was, hard to come to terms with knowing that I gave myself that, right? I had to do some
Yeah.
serious work to get through
Yeah.
that.
Boy, no
Yeah.
kidding. It wasn't the heroin, I promise. It was the growth hormones.
Wasn't smoking it on tinfoil or anything. That did nothing. You know?
Yes.
I just
Yeah.
Well, and I
took
know
all
we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, Michael, I'd love to talk about, I mean, what happened when you got that diagnosis, if anything went through your head at all, or if like a million things all kind of happened at once. So,
yeah,
because everybody has a different experience.
sure.
And when I was young, I had a brain scan, and they said, no, really, there is nothing in your head. Nothing. Nothing at all.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. The Fire That Doesn't Die by Positive Talk Radio. Success never shows up overnight. It tests you. It breaks you. It asks, how much do you want it and how badly do you believe? Amazon answered that question for 9 long years with no profits, only vision. At Positive Talk Radio, our fight began in 2003. Self-funded, no spotlight, no guarantees, only faith that hope and love can change lives. For over 2 decades now, we've kept showing up, keep speaking light into the darkness. And now, hey, we're still here, stronger, louder, inspiring hearts across the world. Because true greatness isn't measured by how fast you rise, but by how long you refuse to fall. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald and Rochelle. And Michael Bugary is here with us. And he is a soon-to-be author. His book is in the process, as they say, of the editing thing that goes on. And he's a speaker, a well-renowned guy. He's got a couple of beautiful dogs, and life is really good for you now, isn't it, Michael?
It's much better. Yes.
Well, good. It's much better than it wasn't the heroin. I promise, it wasn't the heroin.
Yeah.
So you had a diagnosis, and you had this tumor that obviously had to be removed.
Yeah.
And so you had several surgeries and then months of chemo and stuff to follow that. And that was hard, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think, Rochelle, to your earlier point about what was going through my head, I think at this time, I had really no acceptance in my life, and I just didn't. Even though I was told so much about baseball, I just saw it with my own eyes that my arm just wasn't. It just didn't come back right. I wasn't able to throw as hard as I once before, and there was really just no way for me to pitch ever again. I saw that, but I was unwilling to accept that. So I think at this time, I was indifferent in a sense where I never had suicidal ideation in that sense. I know it's a serious issue, and I don't mean to minimize it, but I never had. I didn't care if I lived or died. My actions definitely show that, but I was just indifferent to it. I didn't, I wasn't like, when I got that news, I wasn't like praying to God or this and that. When the doctor was writing his percentages on the whiteboard of 40% to live for this, 30% for this, 20, 50 or 60% chance it comes back, is writing. I'm just in my head. And my mom was in the room with me, and not once did I turn to her and be like, what must she be going through, right? Like she just taking me through rehab, and now she realizes I have cancer. Like, what must she be going through? I was more concerned about, hey, I'm going to get through this because I'm going to get some really good drugs from the hospital now, and I don't have to really work hard for them either. So that was my mindset. There was never a doubt in my mind that I couldn't get through it. It was just like, all right, this is going to suck. All right, give me a stick to bite on, and I'm just going to deal with it. And that's kind of how I went through it. So.
Rochelle, you're quiet.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. It was one thing when my grandma passed, she had a different response than anybody, and as people should. And she just said, I don't want to fight it. And for all of us, it was like, what do you mean? Like,
yeah.
For, as your brain, you're like, well, I can get through this. I'm going to get some good stuff out of it, and I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. Some people, they're praying, they don't know what to do, and they're afraid. And then there's people that are just like, whatever. So you kind of felt almost everything, but was there something like, was there a moment through going through that process where like something hit you and you're like, wait, this purpose is, maybe this diagnosis can be a blessing for me? Or was it like way throughout all of that, through finding out that you no longer had that and getting through that surgery, is what kind of solidified you and did the change?
No, it was much later down the road, because I think, the worst part for me was not that acute moments where I was in the brain surgeries, or, in the chemotherapy when they had to build a special cage that bolted me down, where just destroyed my outside appearance, where, I lost so much weight and I lost all my hair, and I think going through that, I couldn't even look in the mirror, right? And it was just, but I was in a familiar place though, hiding from the world again, right? I did that. What happened to me in baseball, so I was comfortable there. I was comfortable in that place, and now I could actually see it. I could see it too. So it bothered me a little bit more in that sense. So it was really hard to hide from myself. But I think the side effects that I had were so just nasty, in the sense of what they did to my nerve damage and just the nerve pain all over my body. I was so resentful for that. I didn't know if I could, like, I went from an athlete to like barely able to walk. I had just this nerve pain all over, hypersensitivity all over my feet and my hands. I didn't have any spatial awareness. I didn't have any feeling in my front shin muscles, which anybody, they take that for granted when you don't have your, that's your walking muscle. So if you can't feel that, you're falling all over the place. And the thought of this being with my new reality, I didn't know if I was going to be infertile. I didn't know if I could be with a woman again. I didn't know if at 27 years old, I just didn't know all these things. And I was like angry about that part of it. And I think that part of it, to where just trying to embrace this new reality, was overwhelming. And the best way that I could face that, the solution I had, was to use more opiates and painkillers, just to not think about it. I justified it by saying, hey, now I'm in serious physical pain. I need it now. And I learned how to manipulate doctors and things to get more of that. But you're right. I didn't have that moment until later on, until I got to a point of what I call the limbo of agony, where the medication and I just stopped working, where I was in a point where I hurt too much to sit still, and it hurt too much to move, to where I either had to like roll over and die or do something different. I had to get to that point where it was literally, that was my choice.
Yeah.
Michael, not a lot of us are in that situation where we have somebody on a whiteboard saying, okay, you got a 30% chance of survival if we do this, and a 40%, and then you go the day of surgery, just before. Do you remember what your mindset was just before you went into surgery that first time? Because there's a very real possibility that you wouldn't have survived it.
Yeah, like I said, I was indifferent. I was on a lot of medication, and I didn't really give a crap. Part of my language, because I was at that point where I was just like, I might have presented myself on the outside differently, but a life without baseball for me was hell. I didn't, I was indifferent. I just, I put all my entire, I created this character, this identity. I created it to be this person that I wanted to be. Like I said, I tell people all the time, I had this mindset that I was willing to die at 40 years old to play 10 years in the major leagues. I didn't think about families or my 401k or I didn't care about any of that stuff. So I had invested so much into it. And so I don't think that I really just, I said, whatever, like if it happens, it happens, I'm strong. I know I can get through it, but I don't remember like saying, oh, I'm so scared. I know, I was just like, whatever, and that's what those kind of drugs do to you. They're really powerful.
Yeah. Doesn't it feel so good though to look back and have that like, oh my gosh, I'm glad I didn't die, and now I have these dogs and I can go help people.
Yeah, I'm really happy now. And that's having a new perspective that it took me a long time to get is not
like
what I lost, it's what I gained, right? And I gained so much strength from those moments. I gained so much appreciation for life. I gained, you know what I mean? Just the fact that I was in that moment and I didn't care. And like, why was I spared, And instead of me worrying about that part of what am I going to do about that second chance? What do I get to do with it? Right. And that's why I do all these things now, because what I've been given that chance, even if I didn't necessarily deserve it with the way I was acting, but I feel almost obligated. And yes, you're absolutely right. Having hindsight is a superpower for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes deserves got nothing to do with that. By the way, I want to mention, so that we can put closure on this, You recently had a 10-year anniversary
Yes.
date. Describe what that was.
Yeah. So on August 15th was my 10-year cancer free. So they say, 5 years, it's a good chance that that it's not going to come back. And then 10 years is even better. But on a side note to that, and the reason why I believe a lot of this is this a power greater than myself is Lingo, my therapy dog, just celebrated his 10th birthday too. So we have that. He was born the same month as my tumor was removed. So it's, it really is, he saved my life over and over again. So there's so many stories like that of the people at the right time. There's things that happened and just things you can't explain it, and synchronicities, whatever you want to call them, that have happened in my life for me to really realize that, I had this God-shaped hole inside me this whole time, and I tried to fill it with all these other things, but that God has always been working in my life, and I just never really chose to see it. And so once that came to that conclusion, that was another turning point too, when I surrendered and gave up to a power greater than myself, and my life just became so much easier when I had to control everything.
Well, and the fact of the matter is, you didn't have control over it to begin with, and which was why heroin became a thing.
Yeah, but I had the illusion of control, Kevin. You know what I mean? Like, I had that. Yeah.
Yeah, I got this all under control. Don't you worry about a thing.
I love chaos, right? I thrive in chaos. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there are other people that I know that are like that.
Yeah, I'm sleeping in my car, right? Yeah.
Hey, you know what? I'm doing so much better. But it is, I love how you understand that, Michael, because when you are, it's like, I tell people this, and it's something that doesn't make sense to them. It probably makes perfect sense to you, is when you surrender, that's when you gain control.
Yeah.
Because you now only realize you can only control yourself. And when you do that, it changes your perspective of life. But even to have those moments like this started to kick in of like your intuition and allowing things to come to you, to show you and guide you rather than trying to control it, didn't it just make it a little bit easier to get through day-to-day life?
What it does, Michelle, is exactly what you're saying. Is what it allows me to accept me for me as a flawed human being that I am. Right. And then what that does in turn is what I say is then it allows me to accept you for you. Right. And then when I can do that, I live in the world beyond the scope of me. And that is an amazing place to be in, because when I'm thinking that I'm in control and I'm so invested in me and all this other stuff, and I think this and this about me, but when I can be in a world outside of that, then you're exactly right. Then I can see my actions, how I might clean up my side of the street. I can see all these different ways, and I can have that introspection and all these other things that happen to see all the things that in my life were my responsibility. Then I can start to take personal responsibility. It's not that I close the door on the past, or that I regret it, but I see it in a different way. Right. It changes my perspective. Like I was talking about, I'm able to see these things, and there's no more why me's. It's now what do I do with it?
Yeah. Yes. Kevin, can I ask one more question before I leave?
Who says you're going anywhere? Go ahead.
Yes. Michael, I just have to know this, is when you finally came to that point of, okay, I accept me and I accept other people, was there like, okay, let me put it this way. When you thought to yourself, because we say you cannot take care of anybody else until you take care of yourself, right?
Sure.
And then for you though, that may have been confusing, because now that you see that it was all about you, at that time to you, was it just taking care of yourself so that you could do what you thought you were doing right, and then that all kind of just shifted to realize that you were taking care of yourself wrong? Because there is some wrong ways to take care of yourself, maybe.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's the whole moral of my story. The disease of me is that I have to live in a solution, and you're right. The first thing I have to do in taking care of myself is take personal responsibility. I have to take ownership. I have to take ownership of my past. I have to take ownership of my actions. It doesn't matter what anybody else did. I can't control any of that. Or maybe the way I acted actually influenced them to do that. So I have to forgive that. I have to forgive all that and move forward. The second thing I have to do is I have to manage my pain. When I'm in physical pain or when I'm in mental pain, whatever the pain, we all have pain in different ways. Whenever I'm in pain, I only think about myself. So I have to manage my pain, whether that be meditation, exercise, whatever it may be, or therapy, or whatever it is. I have to manage that, and then I can work on my relationships, God, myself, God, and other people. Then when I do those things, that's when I live in the solution that you're talking about, and I can have that. So that is self-care to me. Like me going to visiting the hospital and sitting with kids that are going through the hardest time of their lives, and they're just petting lingo, but I talk to their families, and I see the tears in their eyes, and we talk about lingo story or their dogs, and I see that, and it makes me think of my mom sitting next to me, the things that I did to her, or all these other things, the people that I've hurt, and that fundamentally changes the way that I think, and they're hard to have, but I can't have them without helping somebody else, without the expectation of something in return. So that is helping me, right? That is getting outside of myself. But I can only do that, like you're saying, if I help me first in the sense where I take responsibility and I can come completely honest with myself. And that's the hard part to do. It's really hard to be honest with yourself, especially when you've been lying to yourself your whole life,
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well,
and that's good too, because it is true. When you help other people, you're helping yourself. We had a guest come on last week, or this week, had talked about it actually boosts not only your endorphins, but other people witnessing something like that happening. So I am so happy for you that you got to this point, and seriously, congratulations. It takes somebody who has true resilience to get through these kind of things and be able to see it from the other side.
Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate it. Yeah. I like to call it anti-fragility, meaning like all these bad things that have helped me made me stronger, right? Like they don't, they made me, all the scars, all I think it's beautiful, and it makes me stronger and a better person. Yeah.
Amen.
And more able, and because of your story, to be able to give back. When we come back from this break, I want to talk about that and what the future holds for you, and what you believe is your mission in life, that you and your service dog and all of the things that you're doing and how you're making a difference. And on that note, Rochelle has she's got a meeting with the president, and he needs her advice. So she needs to she's going, or something along those lines. So Rochelle, thank you so much. You've added so much to the show today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully we get to talk again. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Michael. Continue to have the time of your life with Kevin. I love this man so much, and thank you, Kevin, for allowing me to go so that I can have dinner with my family. And thank you for all of our listeners. I know you will learn something from Michael, and I hope it impacts you enough to want to change your story as well. So have a good time, and I'll see you guys on Monday.
Oh, you're so silly. See you later. And we'll be right back, Michael.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
Here are some points to ponder from Positive Talk Radio. Some say leadership is about getting the work done, about pushing forward, no matter the cost. But what's the cost of a team with no purpose? What if a single act of support, a single moment of genuine grit could change everything? What if leadership was a catalyst? Because true leadership isn't about being in control. It's about empowering others to find their purpose. It's about leading with passion and igniting the fire in everyone around you, creating a culture of teamwork and common purpose. A true leader finds this culture by enthusiastic purpose and team development, making each team member feel empowered to create, improve, and execute their tasks with genuine passion and a strong belief in the company's mission and focus. In other words, lead with purpose. And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. And Rochelle is off doing the family thing, and she drove like 12 hours from Utah to Colorado, and they've got this big thing planned for her because they just love her to death. So I'm glad she's doing that. And Michael Bugary is with us, and he's a soon-to-be author that is the book The Disease of Me is coming out in the fourth quarter sometime, not exactly sure when, and he's going to have to come back when that happens. But describe the process of writing that book and what you want people to take from it.
Yeah. So I think my original thought was, what do you do? I wanted to be this motivational speaker, and like I don't have any experience in this, right? I don't know what I'm doing. So what do you do when you jump into a new career, right? You look at the people that do it before you. Right.
Right.
The people that are good at it. And so and I started to apply to some of these speaking bureaus, and a lot of the questions, the first question they ask is, what's your book? Do you have a book? And a lot of these speakers have books, and I'm thinking, all right, well, now I need to get a book. People have been telling me I should write a book, so maybe I should start to write a book. And so that was my initial thought process to doing it. So I sat down, and it had been in the works in my head. I've been taking notes on my phone and taking notes, and then I sat down to do it, and one day I just wrote for like 6 hours, and then there's another day, and it just turned into this, healing process where things started to come to me that I'd forgotten about, and just certain things, and I ended up pouring my heart into it, and I go through what I think the disease of me is, and explain it in a way where that, and then I talk about some stories about just like I go through what I call the triple crown of adversity, and I do this in my speeches too, but I say it's the only award that I won, right? The one I give myself. It's the either sports, addiction, or cancer, or serious illnesses have affected every one of us in some way, all of us.
Mhm.
Right? And I've been through the extremes of all three. So I catalog my three, addiction, baseball addiction, and cancer, through it. Then I go through the solution, what I have to do in order to personal responsibility, managing pain, and working on relationships. And I talk about God and things in there too. And then I talk about the last part is what I've gained and not what I've lost, and all the moments that God's helped me in my perspective. And so, but mostly what it is, Kevin, it's a lot of it's about stories of other people who overcame insurmountable odds that really helped me. Because, and I think maybe it's like this for a lot of people, but it's especially like this for addicts too, is that it's hard to take advice or learn something from anybody that hasn't gone through it.
True.
Right. And so for me, I think it was so hard for me to find people that have gone through exactly what I went through in terms of the rarity of my tumor and the treatment and that stuff. But I found so many stories of other people that just overcame amazing odds. And I catalog a lot of them in my book, and I talk about how they helped me in terms of what helped me heal my nerve damage, and how I learned about meditation, and what helped me get through sports, and the stories of amazing people that can go through these things, but in the moment want to help people. In my journeys now as a speaker, I talk to other people that have gone through brain cancer and other things, and so many other stories, and to see them like in the midst of it, being able to do like donations and whatever it is incredible to me. And I find these people everywhere. So that's what it is. It's also a tribute to my parents and my family, who've always stuck by me, even in the times that I didn't deserve it. So I talk about that, and I get into identity a lot, like the identity of an athlete, and we all have the identity issues, whether we can put our identity into our families, our job, whatever we do the most, we can overemphasize our identity and how that affects us and how it affected me. And so it's put together well. Of course I'm gonna say it's great, but
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is great, and because the premise of the book and what you're doing, and have you ever stopped to think about all the experiences that you've had in your lifetime have led up to this moment and are going to be leading up to future moments? And as you continue to gather experiences and enjoy and experience life, that you're going to become even more gifted at what you do than you are today. Does that ever cross your mind?
All the time. Yeah. Every day. And that's part of being present. Right. And that's part of being, because the biggest thing is when I do those things that I was talking even to Rochelle about a little bit earlier, is when I do all those three things, that solution, I have gratitude. And when I have gratitude, my perspective shifts. Right. And that's when I see all these other things. That's why I thank God every day that I wasn't a baseball player, right? Because that's not what I was meant to be, because I was trying to be somebody else. I thank God every day for the brain tumor, because what it did is it taught me empathy and compassion. In the times where my hair started to grow back, I gained some weight back, but I was in so much pain on the inside, people would always treat me like I'm normal. And I hated it. I hated being around people. But what it taught me is that everybody's going through something on the inside, right? It taught me not to be so judgmental all the time. And it's taught me so many things. So yes, all of those things that happen, all those bad choices that it may come off like I'm self-demeaning in a sense, but I'm not at all. I'm grateful for all the things that happen. I don't approve of them. Acceptance is not approval, right? I don't approve of them. But I accept them, and I'm grateful for them, because they made me this person that I am now.
And this is a complex question, but I need to ask it anyway, because of all the things that you went through and all the things that you disapproved of, and now of what you did, you've forgiven yourself for all of that, right?
Yes.
Because that is a major issue for some people. They just have trouble forgiving themselves
Yeah.
for all the things that they did, but you can't move forward unless you put that to bed and be done with it, right?
I'll tell you what the hardest thing is. The hardest thing for me is I've forgiven myself for all the things. The hardest thing for me is the few relationships that I've ruined that I can't get back.
Ah.
I've been fortunate to get my family back. We have a great open relationship now, but I did some damage to them. But there's a few of my baseball friends, like guys that I became men together with, that I love, that I hurt, that I really hurt. And there's a lot of people. There's a few people that I can't make amends to, and that is the hardest thing to forgive myself for. But I have, because how I do that is through my actions every day. I can't ever say sorry, or nothing's going to change that. But how I live every day and how I impact the environment around me shows that I am, it shows that I am by getting onto these places and being vulnerable and talking about all these things and taking responsibility and showing other people that there's a different way. That's how I say sorry. And that's the hardest thing for me is those men, my brothers that I hurt, and some other people as well.
But that hasn't, at the end of the day, that isn't your responsibility.
Exactly. I
Because,
can't control that. Yeah. Yep.
because they control who they are and what they're willing to do and what they're willing to not do. And if they don't accept that you've changed, and then that's on them.
Yeah,
And,
because
and
dwelling in it goes back. When I dwell on those kind of things, then I build a resentment or whatever. But then it goes back into the scope of me. I have to live outside of the scope of me, right? So
Right.
so why that? You're right, absolutely right. I can't control any of that. I can just like forgive myself and do better in the future, and express my the way that I feel through my actions and words. You're absolutely right.
And because your life is far, far, far from over, you may find that over time, that these friendships and stuff will come back to you.
Yeah.
Because they recognize and they see what you're doing now and the change, and then they read the book, and then they hear that you're speaking and you're going to hospitals, and you're doing some great work right now. You know that, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
And that is so important. And you continue to do it. Where do you see yourself in? Are you going to write more books?
I don't know. It's a good question. What I really want to do. I was fortunate to a big reason why I moved to Ohio is I was fortunate to inherit a large property from my grandfather in the middle of nowhere. It's a beautiful property. It's 100 plus acres of just forest and trees, and it's pristine. My grandfather took care of it. It's a nature preserve. It's a tree farm, not like a Christmas tree farm, but like a maple tree farm, like all kinds of nature. And eventually my goal is, I'm not in this speaking thing to get rich. I'm not, I chased money and athletic glory once, and that ended in a very bad place. I'm not in here to do that. Right. But, and I know me, like if I get back in that mindset, I'm screwed all over again, because my disease lies dormant underneath me. I just needs a little bit of attention and some shiny things to spark it up. So I have to really control that. But my goal is to, find 25, 30, 40 times, speak a year, travel a little bit, but then spend most of my time on my property. I have, all kinds of new tools out there. I don't know if I want to build a dog refuge yet. I don't know if I want to build some sort of retreat. There's something that hasn't quite manifested itself that I want to do out there. And maybe I'll write more books. Maybe I won't, but whatever I want to do, I want to make sure that I'm sharing my message and helping other people in the best way that I can, because in the end, ultimately, like we talked about, helping other people, it really helps me, and it's good for my recovery, and it's good for the people around me. I don't want to be some influencer. I don't even know what that means nowadays, with that. I think, and when I talk to students and stuff, I'm saying, you want to be an influencer. The real influencers impact the environment around you when the cameras are off. And that's what I want to do. And that's my goal.
Yeah, exactly. Now you have maple trees?
Yes.
Do you tap them for maple syrup?
I do. I'm as good as a guy from California can. I'm learning. So
yeah. Well, but by the way, if you don't know, if you get maple syrup that actually comes, the real stuff, comes from maple trees.
Yes.
And it's not some thing that is created in a lab. But a lot of people don't have any idea that that even exists.
Yeah, I'm actually giving a presentation on it in a club that I'm in a couple weeks about how to make it. So yeah, no, it's fascinating. You know, I didn't realize, you know, how it works either. Like, I'm from California. I never even seen a maple tree until I got out here a few years ago. But you know, yeah, I have something that I get to do with my dad and my brother, and it's kind of cool. I have thousands of maple trees, so we got those tapped. We got the blue lines out there. It's cool. So like when life hands you maple trees, you make syrup, right? That's what I say.
That's exactly right. And by the way, we are talking with Michael Bugary, and he is a former, he still is a ball player, because he's a ball player in the game of life.
Yeah.
And he's been through the wars, and he's continuing to improve who he is and is giving back, because I personally believe that service to another is the highest calling that we can all have. And if we are not only kind to ourselves, but we're kind to other people, I want people to listen to this. This is all about kindness. The strength of staying kind from your friends at Positive Talk Radio. Kindness is not weakness. It takes real strength to stay kind in a world that often rewards anger, ego, and control. Being kind means choosing to act from your values, not your wounds. It means showing grace even when no one's watching. But kindness doesn't mean being passive. It doesn't mean letting people take advantage of your time, your energy, or your peace. You can be kind and still say no. You have a soft heart with firm boundaries. The strongest people I know are the ones who choose compassion without losing themselves. They've been hurt. They've been tested. And still, they choose to love and lead and to lift others anyway. Kindness is not about pleasing everybody. It's about honoring who you are and how you treat others, even when it's hard. So stay kind, stay human, and stay strong. And always remember this: be kind to one another, because each other's all we've got. And welcome back to Positive Talk. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we've got Michael Bugary here. And Michael, I want to ask you about that particular commercial, because it struck me while we were listening to that, when we were young, and as men and as young men, we were invincible. We were tough. We could do anything. And as we get older, I think that we figure out that we can't do everything, but we can be kind. And we can take care of everybody. We can say hello to somebody at the grocery store.
Yes.
We can smile at somebody, and that can lead to a great day for them, and stuff like that. So I think that as we get more seasoned and more understanding of what life is really all about, and you've been through it all, and you come out the other side, that's really a cool thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And I think is even cooler. And I think that kindness comes in many forms, and I don't think part of this is when you get to know yourself and you really are true to who you are, then you can learn how to express your type of kindness. Like, for me, sometimes I'm kind of like, when I'm at the gym or I'm in places, I'm kind of stuck up a little bit. I don't try to be. It's just how I am. I think I'm some hot girl or something. I have that mindset. Right? I do. Or I'm just jealous of all the attention that they get, and I don't get it as much. But that's how I am sometimes, and I come off standoffish. So I'm not one to like go up and smile and things. So maybe my kindness necessarily doesn't mean it in that way. But how I do it is by attraction rather than promotion. It's how I put things away, or how I take care of the environment. Like I said, the environment around me. We all have kindness in our own ways. And I think me, it's just not being a jerk, right? Too. And so, yes, you're absolutely right. And I work on it. But I think kindness too is constantly wanting to work on yourself and get better. Like, I have to every day reflect on my conversations with people, because like I said, I have a disease in me. So I'm often thinking about myself first, or talking about myself first. I have to really take a second to analyze what I'm going through, because listening to other people is a form of kindness as well. So
yep. It really is. And I can tell you, you can't be kind to other people unless you're kind to yourself first.
Sure. Yeah.
So that's kind of a big deal. But where do you see yourself? You're a young man. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? What are you going to do?
Like I said, I want to be in front of millions of people speaking. You know, that's what I would say. No, I don't. I don't. I want to speak where I'm needed. Right. I want to. It doesn't matter to me. It's just in small groups or whatever it may be. I just hopefully it's a job for me to pay for the diesel and all the other things I need on my farm, because that's not cheap, you know, for making syrup, and that's my end goal. But yeah, I see myself having somebody to do social media for me. That's what I really like. I hope to have a little team of people so I can just be the show pony, you know, where I can just go out there and just waggle around and talk, and I don't have to do all the other stuff. That's what I would really like. But no, I think that I'd like to have like I said, a refugee, or either if it's for dogs or a retreat for people to come out and to learn about, whether it's meditation or speaking, whatever it may be. I just see myself helping other people. And I really hope that with this gift that I've been given, I can make some changes and make my ripple into the world and make it a better place than I once was, because I'm just so sick of living in a world where I just think about me all the time. It's exhausting. And I want to, but at the same time, I want to take some of those skills, like that confidence and those other things that made me a good baseball player, and use them for good too.
Oh, yeah. Well, everybody can use confidence, especially when the bases are loaded and it's a full count and you've got to make a pitch.
Yeah.
And you have to have the confidence to be able to make that pitch, or you're going to maybe lose the game. So,
Yeah.
you know, and the confidence is an important aspect of all of our lives.
Sure.
You know, and that you were never in that situation, were you, when you were a pitcher?
Oh, absolutely. I was in that situation once against Stanford where I got called. It was 3-0, bases loaded in a tie game in like the 8th inning, and I got called a changeup to pitch. So you have to have some real confidence and some positive self-talk to be able to get out of that situation. I ended up striking out the side, but with changeups. But yes, I've been in that situation many times. You know why I was always in that situation? Because I was always my own worst enemy, and I'd walk people and to get to me in that situation. So I always put myself in those situations. It's like a microcosm of my life, you know. I'd always put myself there, right? So, yeah, yeah.
It's amazing, and it's amazing that you figured that out now. That's part of your makeup.
Yeah, I was trying to strike everybody out. That's why, you know, that's just like my whole life. I was trying to get, because I feel like the strikeouts where you get all the glory. I just wanted all the glory. I was a glory hound, you know. So that's why, not thinking about any of my teammates, you know, just thinking about me and striking people out. That's how I played, and that's okay, you know. I play differently now.
Yeah, and you play more from your heart.
Yeah.
And congratulations on everything you're doing. And the name of the book again is, or will be,
Disease of Me. It's how losing my professional baseball career, a drug addiction, and brain cancer saved my life.
I love that. And you're speaking, and your puppy dog is 10 years old. How's he holding up?
Oh, he's doing great. We were at the hospital yesterday all day, actually, and yeah, he did really well. And we got he's on the cover of the calendar this year. So they have a Pet Pals calendar. You know, they get picked, and so there's a couple hundred different Pet Pals, and there's some pretty famous ones. So for him to be on the cover is a pretty big deal. And so we did the photo shoot a little while ago, and we got the Halloween contest coming up. We got a title to defend at the Children's Hospital, so I'm trying to figure out which to be. And I've been asking a lot of people around. I don't know what we're going to be. It's hard to find a dog in a human costume, you know. But so
it really is. So what did the dog dress up as to win the contest?
Oh, he was a skunk, and I was animal control. I even had the mustache and everything. I got a little pin and the hat. Yeah.
That's really cool, man. Yeah. That's a great idea for somebody. If you want to go to a Halloween party, do that.
Yeah. And year before, he was a lobster and I was a fisherman. I had the whole fisherman thing up. It was pretty good. So
how do you dress a dog as a lobster?
It was just a lobster costume. Yeah. I put it on him. Yeah. It worked out real well. Yeah.
I've had many dogs, and I couldn't put a costume on any of them. He must be really well trained.
Yeah, he is. He just rolls with it. You know, he just, like I said, he likes attention. He's a show pony. He's like, dress me in whatever, as long as you put me out in front of people, you know. And that's how I am too. So I get it. We're a lot alike.
You guys are two peas in a pod.
Yeah, we are. Like I said, it meant to be, and he was my biggest gift of all. And yeah.
Now, tell us again how you met him.
Yeah, so my mom, when I moved back to California after I was really in a lot of pain, and I couldn't take care of myself, my mom was like one of the big wigs at the Defense Language Institute in Monterey, and they had just adopted Lingo as a therapy dog for the soldiers. And so typically when a facility gets a therapy dog or a dog, they give it a handler, right? Somebody to take to work every day and someone to bring it home. And Lingo didn't have that. He didn't have that consistency. He would stay at the base, and sometimes some of the employees would take him home on the weekends, but it was pretty inconsistent. And I think that inconsistency was taking a toll on him, having to spend time in the cage sometimes. And so my mom called mother's intuition, but she saw that he was hurting and I was hurting at home, and maybe we could help each other. And that's how we met each other. And as I was saying earlier, he inspired me to change and to get better, because in order to keep him and eventually become his handler, I had to get better. I had to start taking care of myself and doing these things in order to keep him around. And so he really was that turning point that changed me in a lot of ways.
And you guys bonded, I'm guessing, almost instantly.
Yeah. I always say this, he's not when he wants, I wanted to be alone, right? I just wanted to be, I still, even when he was there, I wanted to like stay inside and just hang out and like watch TV or just mope, whatever. But he's not one of those dogs when he wants to go out, he doesn't go by the door and bark and get excited. He just like stares at you with his like sad dog eyes, and that's like, the guilt is worse for me. That was the best thing he needed, the guilt. And so, yeah, when I took him out and like I said, I got some fresh air for the first time, and I was present. I think being present really is a place where I heal, where I'm not caught up in the past and I'm not worried about the future. I'm present. And that's what he does at the hospital now. He brings these kids or these patients or wherever they are, or the nurses, the doc, whoever, everyone, they bring them, he drags them into the present. And in that present, in that moment where we heal a little bit, and then it just changes the course of our days. It changes the course of theirs, or it may even inspire some kids to get a dog when they get home, or it's a reminder of their pets that they have at home, and an inspiration to recover. So the bringing into the present is such an important part of it. And that's what he did to me. He taught me how to be present.
Have you ever heard of Gilda's Club?
No.
Gilda's Club. Remember Gilda Radner? Do you know who that is?
No, maybe.
She was a comic on Saturday Night Live, and she was married to Gene Wilder. And she passed away. She had cervical cancer, and one of the things that she did was she created, before she passed, a thing called Gilda's Club, and it's a cancer support group.
Okay.
And when I was on the air in 2003. We had some representatives from Gilda's Club, Seattle, come to the show, and one of them was a 4-time cancer survivor.
Wow.
And I said, boy, you've survived cancer 4 times, and you've faced death many times. Do you have any advice for us? And she said, well, the only thing that I can tell you is this. If you have one foot in the past and the other foot in the future, you're peeing on the present. Don't pee on the present.
Yeah.
Because the present's all we've got.
That's awesome. And that's absolutely right. I feel like I can't agree with that more. Yeah. And hopefully, like the question you just said too about where I see myself in the future, I would really, I help a lot with the hospital speaking and stuff. And I really hope to speak at cancer centers and things outside of the volunteer work that we do, because, I think, especially when they see patients see the way that I recovered and hear my story and see how I look, and there's really that, I see that inspiration in them that they can get through it and they can even thrive afterwards too. And that's why I do really hard to take care of my body, even though it helps me physically too. But I want to make sure that I at least look the part too, so they can really see with their own eyes what can happen if you really work hard and put your mind to it and stay positive.
We've been talking with Michael Bugary, and he's the forthcoming author of the book, The Disease of Me. And we all have a little bit of disease of me, or in all of us. And go to his website, which is Michael Bugary, and that's BUGARY.com, and find out more about him and his story and it's really is worth it. Michael, I want to thank you for being here, and you have to promise me that you're going to come back when the book gets published or close to it.
Yes, well, I will do it, and I'll even have Lingo maybe here too. That way,
I would love that. And Brichelle will be just fawning all over the puppy dog.
Yeah, I'll make sure to send you guys some photos too and stuff. Yeah.
Michael, thank you so much for being here. We got to go. We had a great week, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Positive Talk. Thank you for being part of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald, where stories inspire and voices remind us of what truly matters. May today's conversation give you hope, courage, and a reason to keep moving forward. And just remember, till next time, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.